any unit that recognizes that they are committed to development must include women. And that's why you hear my colleagues behind me telling you, do not hold back. This is not the time for women to be shy. You have rights, you have duties, you have responsibilities. And now is the time for women to exercise those rights. We sing our national anthem, and we sing it every day, but do we actually understand what we're singing? There's a line in the national anthem, and since I became a lawyer, that is my favorite line in the national anthem, and it is, Haki ingao, Kkmg, iwe ingao na mimi. Na tunaomba wote, lakini tunafikiria hiyo inamaanisha nini? Hujafikiria? Hapana. Kwa hivyo, hiyo haki utapata wapi? Sio haki utapata mahakamani. Na mahakamani tuko nani? Si tuko wamama? Okay, kwa hivyo wamama hapana gopa kukuja mahakamani. Kama iko na shida, kuja hapa utatueleza. Hata nyuma yangu tuko na hakimu wawili wasichana. Umewaona? Wameanza tu jiki, lakini wako na wameshika kazi vizuri. Umewaona? Okay, sasa kama utakuja kotini utawaona. Wako na wako tayari kufanya kazi. So, talking about sustainable goals, the sustainable development goals, the first goal is gender mainstreaming. So, gender mainstreaming is just another technical term for equality. Really, we want equality, we want to be included. It should not be a question of women standing on the sidelines and asking to be included. Women are there as of right. And people ask me, you know, where do you come from? What are you? I'm Kenyan. I was born in Nairobi. And my father was also a Kenyan judge. And the natural successor to my father was his daughter. He has sons, but they were not of the same. So it does not mean that if a father does something, it's inevitable that the sons will do the same. It can be a daughter. A daughter can stand in the shoes of a father the same way as a wife can stand in the shoes of a husband. Any child can follow either parent, and that will be equally valid. The first SDG is SDG 1, which is zero poverty. But I find it difficult to discuss poverty in Kkmg because I came from the county of Taita Taveta, which had many challenges, and those challenges were always met by the women, and the women's groups were very active. And that was very heartening. But in Kkmg is an amazing place. What I see is Kkmg is developed, Kkmg is well planned, people are interested in building on what they have already achieved in the future. Vile nimesema, ninasema Kkmg imeng'ara. Ninafurahi kukuja hapa kutoka Coast. Na ninataka wamama wa Kkmg wajue wanaishi mahali imeng'ara, lakini usirest hapo, si tutaendelea. Na tutaendelea pamoja. Ndio. So moving on to innovation, we've heard the speakers, and I'm very happy to have heard from ActionAid and Maendelea Wanawake and our friend from the university, that we are interested also in the informal sector. Because often women do not have the same opportunities in education. But sometimes you have a woman who is a natural scientist, like my sister was saying, a natural scientist, a natural engineer, and those people will therefore excel in the informal sector, but only if we support them. And I think that though that is the area where, with the forests and the rural economy we have in this area, that I would like to see, with respect, that this is an area which is developed and promoted in this region. SDG, I'm sure people will remind me, peace and justice strengthening. So the court, there's a new court building, we have new magistrates. We now have 9 magistrates' courts in Kkmg. There's a new building, and that is all here to serve. So even though we talk about women in leadership, and there is a perception that women judges and women magistrates are leaders, but we are also servants. We are here to serve the people who come to see us. And that is something we do with great humility. We take it as a serious responsibility, and it is something we gain pleasure from. And so, therefore, you should not feel that you are coming to court and you will not be well served. That is something we promise you. Moving on to SDG 3, and this is something I think which is close to my heart. The SDG for health. And talking of foundations and building blocks, every family starts with a baby. And we're so happy when there is a baby born in our family, however distant. And therefore, we should always be conscious of natal and baby health, because those are the areas where most rural women suffer the most. Whether it's because as a consequence of lack of health care, whether it's a consequence of FGM, the consequence of aftercare, it is something we all know that we need, and it is something that we all know that we should work towards. So even as we're talking about development, we should remember that our development should be founded on strong foundations, and the strong foundations are the care of the children, the women, and the elderly. Again, coming back to the strengths of women, we're talking about building blocks, we're talking about sustainable futures, but how do you start your future? You start your future in a family, with a child. So your future, we have our family, and then we have our community. And the thing I love about Kkmg is everybody knows their community. Everybody knows huyu ni jirani na huyu ni shemeji. Na kila mtu iko na shemeji yake, si ndio? And that's the beauty, and it adds to the warmth of the community in Kkmg. And the other thing I like is their love of music, because you don't see people in Kkmg with our problems of sciatica and lumbago, and because they're very agile, and the music keeps us going. And so for that, I thank you. What we are doing now in the courts is we're in fact commemorating International Women's Day with a program to recruit advocates who will be pro bono advocates to help in SGBV, and that is a judiciary-wide project that we are going to encourage advocates to sign up for that, so that people who come to the courts feel that they have somebody on their side to assist them to present their cases, because often they find themselves in a position which is very daunting. And in addition to having advocates who are trained lawyers, I would suggest that we also have advocates who are not trained lawyers, but people who understand the community and come to the courts and assist people pursue their rights and pursue any kind of claim they have, as well as gender-based violence cases. And that will help the courts to understand the social context of what they have suffered. And that is inevitable, because sometimes, as we heard, there's repeat offending, and there's repeat offending in certain areas, in certain communities, in certain situations, socioeconomic. And for that, the courts have to know what is happening so that they can deal with the the perpetrators, the victims, the survivors in the correct way, and in a way that enhances healing. I think there's something that we've forgotten, but often in the strict letter of the law, is that we have a great opportunity to enhance healing of the victims, rehabilitation of the offenders, and the cohesion of society. And for that, I want all of you to join with us to improve that kind of service delivery. I asked the young people that I work with what they thought should be the goals of International Women's Day. And it's very interesting because they say, you know, out of the mouths of babes, and you get the true sense of what is going on. And one of the points that was made to me is that we should be ending discrimination against women. And then you go to the United Nations, and that is SDG 5, which is gender mainstreaming. So you see, we are all speaking the same language. But from where I stand, I think we have talked the talk, and now it's time to walk the walk. And I thank